Is it a real pyramid or it isn't? Would you like to learn some interesting facts about the Bosnian pyramids which were discovered in very near past, and also my experience from visiting this wonderful place? Enjoy the listening, and here we are. So, what are the characteristics of proper pyramids, so that you can distinguish if it is a normal hill or if it is really pyramid? We need to take this into consideration because we cannot count and rely only on our eyesight and on the fact that we can see only a hill which is covered by soil. Because this covering of the soil could mean that there is a structure which is pretty old and it is a result of thousands of years of processes which were happening on Mother Earth. So, what are the characteristics of the proper pyramid? First of all, it is geometry. 4 sides, triangular faces, the same slope on all sides, and obvious corners. From my point of view, the obvious corners are one of the most significant characteristics which make the difference between the normal hill and the pyramid. Also, the sides of the pyramid are perfectly matching the cardinal points, especially the cosmic north. What's more, not only the structures which are above the surface, but there are important also the structures which are below, which are hidden. I mean the passageways, underground tunnels, crossings, chambers, water accumulations, and so on and so on. In the case of the Pyramid of Sun in Bosnia, there was detected a beam coming from the top of the pyramid, and this beam is electromagnetic and its radius is 13 feet and the frequency 28 Hz. What's more, from the top of this pyramid there is coming also the ultrasound beam, and the radius is bigger, is 30 feet, and the frequency is from 28 to 33 Hz. And what's more, very interesting characteristics of Pyramid of the Sun. They were detected by the scientists and by the dowsers 7 levels of different passageways which are forming the spiral and are forming the energy which is coming from the top. When I have heard this number 7, it immediately reminded me of 7 energetic centers which we have in our human bodies. There are many interesting things about these structures, about these pyramids, and the Pyramid of the Sun is not the only one in the Valley of Pyramids in Bosnia. Now, regarding the signal, which is really mind-blowing to me, the signal is increasing as you are going far away from it. So it means that the signal is bigger at the top of the pyramid than at the bottom where it starts to be created. At the top of the pyramid, the signal is from 50 times to 500 times stronger than on the bottom. Now, accept these scientific factors which convinced me, but in fact I didn't need to be convinced that this is a pyramid. When I was coming to this place, I was coming there thanks to synchronicity. I was thinking of visiting the pyramid, and to my mind, of course, came first the Pyramid of Giza. In fact, I didn't know at all that there is some pyramid which is pretty close to my home country. But as I have told you, the synchronicity came, and more of them, so I decided to follow my intuition and go to this place. And I was so lucky that a friend of mine with her husband, they took me to this place, and we had a special guide girl, which I think that I have known for ages. So when we were coming closer to this place, there was an interesting thing that the weather seemed not to be very nice. What it means? It was rainy, drizzling, there was a fog, and you would say, using your rational mind, that the weather is not very nice and is not very supporting for this trip. But when I was on this place, when I was climbing up the hill, I realized that the weather is perfect. As I was standing at the bottom and looking around the place, I had a very, very, very strong feeling that I'm coming home. The tears were running down my face because I had the feeling that I have already lived in this place. This was my experience as the body, as the human being. And while we were climbing up the hill, it was raining, but it didn't matter to us, and we were keeping on going up. The thing is that the mud was skiddy and some of us fell down, but it didn't stop us from going there. We were going to the place where there were uncovered the layers of clay, which was approximately 1 meter. Under this 1 meter of clay, there were found the concrete blocks which are covering the whole pyramid. And the thing is that one concrete block is about 4.5 meters long. It has thickness almost 0.5 meter, and its width on average is 1.5 meter. It weighs 7 tons, so normal human being is not able to move it. And as we think about it rationally, some hundreds years ago, the human being was not able at all to move such a big structures, taking into consideration only our rational mind. There are several layers of these concrete blocks. In fact, in some places there are 4 layers, in some places there are only 2 layers because the concrete blocks are thicker and are not, for example, 0.5 meter thick, but are 1 meter thick or more. As I have already told you, this is not the only experience, the strange and beautiful experience which we had there. And I would like to point out, some people are saying that they didn't perceive anything, but I'm convinced that all of us humans can perceive something, but we just need to pay attention to this, and we have to be mindful. We have to be here and now. And this is the reason why I was asking the people, my colleagues, my friends, while we were climbing up the hill, the Sun Pyramid, because I was curious what would be my feelings and what would be the feelings of other people, because they have different gifts and different abilities, and maybe they are better at different physical senses. As I have already mentioned to you, while I was climbing the hill up, I had a very strong feeling that I'm coming home. And this was not only the physical feeling that I'm coming to the place which I already have known, and I have known it for ages, so most probably I have spent there several of my past lives. But also, I mean, coming home in the terms of frequency, because the pyramid is emitting the frequency which is the former planetary frequency, and it's keeping the frequency of the planet. So it means that my body was revibrating into higher frequency, and in fact I was coming home too, because the original frequency is the home of our souls, so we can feel that we are coming home in effect. When I was asking my friends, each of them told me or mentioned to me different experience. Some people said that they had headaches when they were close to the concrete blocks. Some people, as me, felt deeply touched by visiting this place and by feeling of this frequency. And I can tell you that it was not like shivering, or I didn't feel it physically in my body. It were my feelings which told me that I'm coming home. Some of the people were feeling very strong energy. Some said that they didn't feel anything, but later on they revealed some of their experiences which they had, for example, in the tunnels. What's more, when I was coming to this place, I had a very strong feeling that it's inevitable and that I can't miss it. There was something really important, and this event was important, and I know it will be important event in my life. So when people are coming close to this area, and I'm not meaning that you just stand below the hill, but when you are approaching this area, because the structures are really huge and the energetic field comes in, I would say, hundreds of kilometers, and in fact I'm really sure that this pyramid covers with its energetic field the whole planet. And this is also the reason why it is said to keep the planetary original frequency. So you might feel some change when you are approaching this place and you are maybe tens of kilometers far away from this town of Visoko, where the pyramids are situated. When we were approaching the place, we wanted also to visit the capital of Bosnia and Hercezovina, Sarajevo. When we were in this beautiful city, we wanted also to go uphill and see the site where there were held the Olympic Games, the Winter Olympic Games. I think it was in 1984. So it means it was almost 40 years ago. And what was my surprise when I noticed the concrete of the bobsleigh trace, how it looked. It was pretty eroded by water and winter when it freezes and so on and so on. And I was surprised even more when the very next day I was climbing up the hill, up the Sun Pyramid, coming close to concrete blocks which were covering the pyramid itself, and I could notice that these concrete blocks have suffered lower erosion, even though they might be old hundreds of years. So this was for me pretty mind-blowing. The reason is, and what the scientists have found out regarding these concrete blocks, there are two factors important regarding the concrete. And I also would like to admit that some time ago I was looking at the concrete as something artificial, which I don't like, because I'm aware that everything has consciousness. Not only people, but also animals, plants, trees, and also the stones. But I was not very convinced about artificially made things, for example, concrete. But this concrete is really special. There are two factors which differ it from our current concrete. One of the factors is the hardness, which is measured in megapascals. I will not tell you the numbers because I don't remember them, but I'm sure you can find it out on internet. But the truth is that the hardness of the concrete blocks used on the Pyramid of the Sun are at minimum 3 times stronger than the concrete we are able to produce nowadays with our so-called developed ability. The second thing is the absorption of water. and this is connected to my feeling while I was visiting Sarajevo and the place of the Winter Olympic Games. I had a very strong feeling that there was a big erosion on this concrete, but when I saw the concrete on the pyramids, it was not eroded that much. The reason is that the water absorption of the concrete used on the pyramids is 1%, while we as human beings nowadays are able to produce the concrete with 3% absorption. And it's obvious, the higher the percentage, the more the concrete absorbs water and more it is likely to suffer from erosion and from freezing the water and crumbling. So if you imagine that you are standing to a concrete block which is of such a high quality that we as human beings, and we calling ourselves as developed civilization, we are not able to produce it yet. How do you feel over your body? This is really mind-blowing. And you will learn more regarding also the movement of the blocks, and there are many things to be revealed regarding the passageways, the tunnels, also the megaliths which are situated inside, and also regarding the water, etc. So if this was interesting to you, give me thumbs up or follow me, and look forward to the next video where I will reveal more of my experiences and how I perceived several different things while being on this wonderful place. Also, I would like to thank especially to Mr. Semir Osmanagić. I'm really grateful that there lives a guy in small country, Bosnia and Hercezovina, and that he was spending his time also in his own country, and that he was obeying the synchronicity which took him to the town of Visoko, and that he was so open-minded and out-of-box thinking that he had a look at the hill, and he trusted his inner feelings, and he trusted what it told him in connection with his knowledge and wisdom. I also would like to thank him for his passion, for his wisdom, with which he not only gave names to the 5 pyramids, the Pyramid of Sun, the Pyramid of Moon, the Pyramid of Dragon, Pyramid of Love, and Pyramid of Earth. So thank you very much, Mr. Osmanagić, and in next video I will share more of my own perceptions, and I will connect it, as you have already mentioned, not only with our physical experience but also with the energy, with our emotions, and with the spiritual information which are coming from that place for me. Thank you very much.